The red dress had taken 6 months to make. Hannah Washington stood at the altar of Grace Community Church, her hands trembling as she held a bouquet of white roses. 300 people filled the pews behind her. She could feel every single eye on her body, judging her the way they had her entire life. Trevor Mitchell stood across from her in his black tuxedo, his face pale under the bright church lights. Pastor Reynolds smiled at them both, his Bible open to the passage about love and commitment. Everything should have been perfect. This was supposed to be the happiest day of Hannah's life. Then Trevor stepped back. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice echoing in the suddenly silent church. "I can't do this." Hannah's heart stopped. The roses slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. "What? I can't marry you, Hannah?" Trevor's voice got louder, harder. "I tried to convince myself I could, but I can't spend my life with someone who looks like you. Everyone's been telling me I'm making a mistake and they're right. You're overweight, you're lazy, and you're an embarrassment. I deserve better than this." The church erupted in gasps and whispers. Hannah heard her mother cry out from the front pew. Her legs felt weak. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not in front of everyone. "Trevor, please," she whispered, but he was already walking away, his footsteps loud on the marble floor. Hannah stood frozen at the altar, her red dress suddenly feeling like a spotlight highlighting everything wrong with her. 300 people stared at her. Some looked shocked. Others looked satisfied as if they'd been waiting for this moment. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Tears streamed down her face as the full weight of humiliation crashed over her. This was it. This was how her story ended. Alone at the altar while the whole town watched. Then a deep voice spoke from the back of the church. "I'll marry her." Every head turned. A tall man in a blue suit stood up from the last pew. He was handsome with dark hair and kind eyes. Hannah had never seen him before in her life. He walked down the aisle with confident steps, his gaze fixed on her. "Who are you?" Pastor Reynolds asked, confusion clear in his voice. "Brandon Cole," the stranger said. He reached the altar and looked directly at Hannah. "I'm visiting your town for business. I've been sitting in this church for the past 20 minutes and I've seen enough. Ma'am, you deserve better than what just happened. If you'll have me, I'll marry you right now. Right here." Hannah stared at him. This had to be some kind of joke. Some new form of humiliation. "You don't even know me." "I know you didn't deserve that," Brandon said quietly. "I know you're brave for standing here. And I know I can offer you something better than going home alone today." "This is absurd," someone shouted from the pews. But Hannah barely heard them. She looked into Brandon's eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Respect. Genuine respect. "Why would you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Because it's the right thing to do," Brandon said simply. "Because no one should be treated the way you just were. I'm offering you a choice, Hannah. You can walk out of here alone or you can walk out of here married to me. I have resources. I have connections. I can help you start over somewhere new, away from all of this. No strings attached. Just a chance at a different life." Hannah looked at the congregation. She saw the people who had bullied her in school. The relatives who always made comments about her weight. The neighbors who whispered when she walked by. Her mother sat in the front pew, tears running down her face, looking helpless. Then Hannah looked back at Brandon Cole. A stranger who was offering her an escape. It was crazy. It was impossible. But staying here, going back to her apartment alone after this public humiliation, felt even more impossible. "Yes," Hannah heard herself say. "I'll marry you." Pastor Reynolds looked between them, clearly torn between his duty and the absolute strangeness of the situation. "This is highly irregular. But is it legal?" Brandon asked. "Well, yes, technically if both parties consent and we have witnesses." "Then let's proceed," Brandon said. He took Hannah's hand. His palm was warm and steady. "If you're sure." Hannah was not sure of anything except that she couldn't face these people as the woman who got abandoned at her own wedding. "I'm sure." The ceremony was brief and surreal. Pastor Reynolds rushed through the vows, his hands shaking as he held his Bible. When he pronounced them husband and wife, the church remained eerily silent. No applause. No celebration. Just shocked stares. Brandon turned to Hannah. "May I?" he asked softly. When she nodded, he kissed her cheek gently, respectfully. Then he took her hand and led her down the aisle. 300 people watched them leave. Hannah kept her head up, her hand gripped tightly in Brandon's. They walked out of Grace Community Church into the bright afternoon sunlight. A black car waited at the curb, a driver standing beside it. "I have a hotel suite here in town," Brandon said. Let's get you somewhere quiet. Then we can talk about what happens next. Is that okay? Hannah nodded, unable to form words. She climbed into the car, her red dress bunching around her. As the car pulled away from the church, she looked back one time. Her mother stood on the steps, her hand over her mouth. Trevor was nowhere to be seen. Hannah Washington had walked into that church as a bride. She was leaving as a wife to a complete stranger. What had she just done? Before we continue, I need to ask you something important. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever been in a moment where you realized the people who were supposed to love you actually saw you as less than? If this story is touching something in your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters too. Let's continue. Hannah woke up in the softest bed she'd ever felt in her life. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed over her like cold water. The church. Trevor's rejection. The stranger who married her. She sat up quickly. The hotel suite was enormous, decorated in whites and soft grays. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the small downtown area of her hometown. She was still wearing her red dress, now wrinkled and uncomfortable. Her wedding ring caught the morning light. It was a simple gold band that Brandon had somehow produced yesterday. She touched it with shaking fingers. A knock on the door made her jump. "Hannah? Are you awake?" Brandon's voice was gentle through the door. "Yes. May I come in? I have coffee and breakfast." Hannah looked down at herself, still in yesterday's dress, her makeup probably smeared everywhere. "Give me 5 minutes." She rushed to the bathroom and cleaned her face. She couldn't do much about the dress. When she opened the bedroom door, Brandon stood in the suite's living area. He wore jeans and a green shirt, looking nothing like the formal stranger from yesterday. A room service cart held coffee, eggs, toast, and fruit. "How did you sleep?" he asked, pouring coffee into 2 cups. "I'm not sure I did," Hannah admitted. She accepted the coffee gratefully, sinking into the couch. "Is this real? Did yesterday actually happen?" Brandon sat in the chair across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. "It did. And I imagine you have a lot of questions." "Why did you do that?" Hannah asked. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Brandon was quiet for a moment, stirring sugar into his coffee. "My sister was treated badly her whole life because she didn't fit what people thought she should be. Different reasons than you, but the same cruelty. She took her own life when she was 20. I wasn't there to help her. I was too caught up in building my business, making money, proving myself. When I saw what was happening to you yesterday, I couldn't just sit there. I had the power to change your situation, so I did." Hannah felt tears sting her eyes. "I'm so sorry about your sister." "Thank you," Brandon said softly. "Her name was Rachel. She would have liked you, I think. She was brave too." "I don't feel very brave." "You said yes yesterday. That took courage." Brandon set down his coffee. "Hannah, I want to be very clear about something. I don't expect anything from you. This isn't about me wanting a wife or romance or anything like that. This is about giving you options you didn't have before. I own a company in the city about 3 hours from here. Cole Enterprises. We do technology development and community investment. I can offer you a job, a place to live, and resources to build whatever life you want. No pressure. No expectations beyond basic respect and honesty." Hannah stared at him. "You're serious?" "Completely serious. I saw someone in a terrible situation and I have the means to help. If you want to take me up on this offer, we can leave today. If you'd prefer to stay here, I can help you in other ways. If you want an annulment immediately, I'll make that happen. This is your choice." "What's in it for you?" Hannah asked. "Because people didn't just do things like this. There had to be a catch." Brandon met her eyes. "Peace of mind, maybe. Knowing I helped someone when I couldn't help Rachel. And honestly, Hannah, I think you have more potential than anyone in that church gave you credit for. I saw the way you held yourself together yesterday. That strength deserves a chance to flourish." Hannah thought about going back to her apartment, facing her co-workers at the grocery store, seeing the pity and judgment in everyone's eyes. She thought about staying in this town where everyone had witnessed her humiliation. Then she thought about leaving, starting over somewhere no one knew her story. "If I come with you," she said slowly, "I want to earn my place. I don't want charity. I want to work and prove I can build something real." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Brandon said. "And we're clear that this is just an arrangement? You're not expecting me to be a real wife." "Crystal clear. I'll help you set up your own room in the penthouse. We'll be roommates essentially. Roommates who happen to be legally married and who can help each other out." Hannah took a deep breath. Every logical part of her brain said this was crazy. You didn't run off with strangers, even kind ones. But the alternative was staying here, in the place where she would always be the girl who got rejected at her own wedding. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Let's go to the city. Brandon smiled, and it was warm and genuine. Then let's get you packed. Do you need to go to your apartment? I need to see my mother first, Hannah said. She must be terrified. An hour later, Hannah stood in her mother's small living room. Gloria Washington sat on the couch, her eyes red from crying. When Hannah explained the plan, her mother looked torn between relief and worry. You're really leaving? With a man you don't know? Mom, what else can I do? I can't stay here. Everyone saw what happened. Gloria stood and hugged her daughter tightly. I should have done more. I should have stood up for you more over the years. I was just so worried about keeping the peace, about not making waves. I'm sorry, baby. Hannah felt her own tears fall. I know, Mom. It's okay. Promise me you'll call me every day. Promise me if anything feels wrong, you'll come home. I promise. Brandon waited by the car while Hannah and her mother said goodbye. Gloria pressed a small box into Hannah's hands. Inside was her grandmother's silver necklace. For courage, Gloria whispered. Hannah put it on immediately. Then she climbed into the car with Brandon and watched her hometown disappear in the rearview mirror. The drive to the city took 3 hours. Brandon answered her questions about his business, his life, and what she could expect. He was 32, had built his company from nothing over 10 years, and lived alone in a penthouse downtown. He had a small staff, including an assistant named Leslie who Hannah would meet soon. Leslie knows the situation, Brandon explained as they drove through increasing traffic. She's trustworthy and kind. She'll help you get settled. When they finally pulled up to a glass and steel building in the heart of the city, Hannah felt overwhelmed. She'd never lived anywhere bigger than her small town. The doorman greeted Brandon by name and welcomed Hannah with a smile that seemed genuine. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. It was stunning, all windows and light. Everything was clean and modern and nothing like anywhere Hannah had ever lived. The guest room is through here, Brandon said, leading her down a hallway. It has its own bathroom. Make it yours. Tomorrow we'll go shopping for anything you need. Tonight, just rest. Order room service if you're hungry. There's a menu by the phone. Hannah stood in the doorway of what was now her room. It was bigger than her entire old apartment. The bed had a blue comforter and the windows overlooked the city lights. Brandon, she said softly. He turned back. Thank you. For all of this. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. Thank you. You're welcome, Hannah. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start building your new life. After he left, Hannah sat on the bed and looked at her reflection in the mirror across the room. She looked the same. Same round face, same heavy body, same brown eyes. But something felt different. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things could actually get better. She accepted Brandon's help because she finally understood she deserved help. She deserved a chance. And she was going to take it. Hannah's first morning in the city started with sunlight flooding through her windows. She woke up confused for a moment before remembering where she was. The penthouse. Brandon's home. Her new home, at least for now. She showered in the enormous bathroom, using expensive soaps that smelled like lavender. Her suitcase held only a few casual clothes from her old life. Everything felt wrong now, too small or too worn. She put on jeans and a purple sweater and ventured out into the main living area. Brandon stood in the kitchen making coffee. He looked up and smiled. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than I expected, Hannah admitted. This bed is incredibly comfortable. Good. I thought we'd spend today getting you settled. Shopping for clothes, toiletries, anything you need. Then tomorrow I'll take you to Cole Enterprises and show you where you'll be working. About that, Hannah said, accepting a cup of coffee. What exactly will I be doing? Brandon leaned against the counter. Our company has a community outreach department. We work with local organizations, coordinate charitable programs, and build relationships with neighborhoods that need support. Based on what little I know about you, I think you'd be good at that kind of work. Connecting with people, understanding what they need, making things happen. Does that sound interesting? Hannah thought about it. She'd spent years working at a grocery store, dealing with customers, solving small problems. This sounded similar but bigger, more meaningful. It does. But I don't have any formal training. Neither did most of our best people when they started. We'll train you. Patricia Johnson runs that department, and she's excellent at bringing new people up to speed. Give it a chance. If it doesn't work out, we'll find something else you're good at. An hour later, they were in a shopping district Hannah had only seen in magazines. Brandon took her to stores where everything had clean lines and soft fabrics. At first, Hannah felt awkward, waiting for salespeople to look at her with judgment. But the woman who helped them, an older lady named Susan, treated her with genuine kindness. "These colors will look beautiful on you," Susan said, pulling out dresses in red, blue, and green. "And these jeans are comfortable but professional." Hannah tried on outfit after outfit. She expected to feel worse with each one, seeing her body in different mirrors. Instead, something strange happened. In well-fitted clothes that actually flattered her shape, she looked good. Not magazine perfect, but good. Real. Human. "That blue dress is stunning on you," Brandon said when she emerged from the dressing room. Hannah looked at herself in the three-way mirror. The dress was royal blue, fell to her knees, and somehow made her look confident. "I've never worn anything like this." "Well, you should. We'll take it, along with these others." By the time they finished shopping, Hannah had a whole new wardrobe. Clothes for work, casual clothes, even a beautiful green dress Brandon insisted she get for nice occasions. She accepted everything gratefully, understanding this wasn't just about clothes. This was about giving her armor for her new life. Their next stop was a medical building. Brandon led her to the 5th floor, where a nutritionist named Dr. Angela Freeman had an office. "I'm not here to tell you to lose weight," Dr. Freeman said immediately after introductions. "I'm here to help you be healthy, whatever that looks like for your body. Mr. Cole mentioned you've been through some stress recently. I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself." Hannah found herself relaxing. Dr. Freeman asked about her eating habits, her energy levels, her relationship with food. They talked about intuitive eating, about listening to her body, about healing from years of diet culture and shame. "The goal is feeling good," Dr. Freeman explained. "Not fitting some arbitrary standard. Let's work on that together." Hannah accepted Dr. Freeman's help, scheduling weekly appointments. Then Brandon took her to one more place. A therapist's office. Dr. Michael Torres was a kind man in his 50s who specialized in trauma and self-esteem issues. He spoke with Hannah for an hour, asking about her life, her experiences, what she hoped for her future. "Healing takes time," Dr. Torres said at the end. "But you've already taken the biggest step by being here. Let's work together to help you see yourself the way you deserve to be seen." By evening, Hannah was exhausted but in a good way. Back at the penthouse, Brandon ordered dinner from a nearby restaurant. They ate together at the dining table, looking out at the city lights. "This is a lot," Hannah said quietly. "The clothes, the doctors, everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You repay me by building a good life," Brandon said simply. "By using these resources to become whoever you want to be. That's all I'm asking." "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why aren't you married? I mean, before this strange situation. You're successful, kind, handsome. There must have been women interested." Brandon smiled slightly. "There were. But building a business took everything I had. And after Rachel died, I threw myself even more into work. Romance seemed like something for other people, people who had time for it. I never met anyone who made me want to make time." He paused. "What about you? How long were you with Trevor?" Hannah set down her fork. 3 years. We worked together at the grocery store. He was one of the only people who was nice to me, or so I thought. Looking back, I think I was just so grateful someone wanted me that I ignored all the warning signs. The little comments about my weight. The way he'd cancel plans if his friends were around. I convinced myself I was lucky to have him. You deserved so much better than that. I'm starting to believe that, Hannah said. And she meant it. That night, Hannah lay in her new bed, wearing new pajamas, thinking about everything that had changed in just 2 days. She'd gone from a rejected bride to a woman with possibilities. It was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother asking if she was okay. Hannah called her instead. I'm good, Mom, she said. Really good. This place is amazing and Brandon is genuinely kind. He set me up with doctors, bought me new clothes, and gave me a real job. I start tomorrow. Just be careful, baby. I will. But Mom, I think this is going to be okay. Better than okay. After they hung up, Hannah looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Same face, same body. But different eyes. These eyes had hope in them. She was going to make this work. She was going to prove she was worth the chance Brandon had given her. Not for him, but for herself. Tomorrow her new life really began. Hannah's first day at Cole Enterprises started with nerves that made her hands shake. She wore one of her new outfits, a red blouse and black pants, and stood in front of the massive glass building trying to convince herself she could do this. Brandon met her in the lobby. Ready? Terrified, Hannah admitted. That's normal. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone. Cole Enterprises occupied 5 floors of the building. Brandon's office was on the top floor, but he took Hannah to the 3rd floor where the community outreach department worked. The space was open and bright, with people working at desks and collaborating in small groups. A woman in her 40s with warm brown skin and a friendly smile approached them. She wore a green dress and had her hair in natural curls. You must be Hannah. I'm Patricia Johnson and I run this department. Brandon told me a little about your situation. Welcome to the team. Hannah shook her hand, grateful for Patricia's warm reception. Thank you. I'm eager to learn. Perfect attitude to have. Patricia turned to Brandon. I'll take it from here. Hannah and I need to talk about what she'll be doing. Brandon nodded and smiled at Hannah before heading back to the elevators. Patricia led Hannah to a desk near a window. This is yours. Computer, phone, supplies. Everything you need. Let me explain what we do here. Patricia sat on the edge of the desk. Cole Enterprises makes money through technology, but Brandon believes in giving back. Our department works with community organizations throughout the city. Food banks, youth programs, housing initiatives, health clinics. We help coordinate donations, organize volunteer events, and build partnerships. It's rewarding work, but it can be challenging. People are depending on us to follow through. That sounds meaningful, Hannah said. It is. Your job will be to help manage our relationships with partner organizations. You'll take calls, coordinate meetings, help plan events, and eventually build your own portfolio of groups to work with. Think you can handle that? Hannah thought about years of dealing with difficult customers at the grocery store, solving problems, staying calm under pressure. Yes, I can do that. Great. Let's get you set up. The morning passed in a blur of training. Patricia introduced Hannah to the rest of the team. There was Marcus, a young man fresh out of college who handled social media. Jennifer, who managed volunteer coordination. And Tom, who dealt with corporate partnerships. Everyone was welcoming and patient with Hannah's questions. At lunch, Patricia took Hannah to a nearby cafe. They sat outside in the bright afternoon sun. Can I be honest with you? Patricia asked after they'd ordered. Please. Brandon told me you've been through something difficult recently. He didn't give details, just said you were starting over. I want you to know that what matters here is your work and your character. Your past doesn't define you unless you let it. Hannah felt tears threaten. Thank you. That means a lot. We've all got stories, Patricia said kindly. I've got mine too. The beautiful thing about this place is that Brandon hires people who need chances and then supports them while they figure things out. Half the people here have rebuilt their lives in some way. You're in good company. Over the next 2 weeks, Hannah settled into her new role. She discovered she was good at talking to people, understanding what they needed, and finding solutions. When a food bank needed help organizing a distribution event, Hannah coordinated 30 volunteers and made sure everything ran smoothly. When a youth program lost their meeting space, Hannah helped them find a new location and arranged for Cole Enterprises to cover the first 3 months of rent. Patricia praised her work consistently. You have a natural talent for this. You listen to people and actually hear what they're saying. That's rare. Hannah also started therapy with Dr. Torres. Their sessions were hard but helpful. They talked about the years of bullying, the messages she'd internalized about her worth, the way Trevor's rejection was just the culmination of decades of being told she wasn't enough. You've survived all of that, Dr. Torres said during one session. Do you understand how strong that makes you? I never thought of it as strength. I just thought of it as getting through each day. That's exactly what strength is. Not some dramatic moment of courage, but the quiet decision to keep going even when everything hurts. Hannah also accepted Brandon's offer to join a support group for people rebuilding their lives. She met others who'd been through divorces, job losses, health crises. They shared their stories without judgment, offering encouragement and understanding. At home in the penthouse, Hannah and Brandon developed a comfortable routine. They'd have dinner together twice a week, talking about their days. Brandon never pried, but he was always interested in her work stories. Hannah found herself looking forward to these dinners, to the easy conversation and genuine interest. One evening, about 6 weeks after she'd arrived, they were having dinner when Brandon asked, "Are you happy here?" Hannah considered the question seriously. I am. Happier than I've been in a long time. The work is fulfilling, I'm making friends, and I'm learning so much about myself in therapy. You gave me something I didn't think I'd ever have. What's that? A chance to find out who I am when I'm not drowning in other people's opinions. Brandon smiled. You're doing that all on your own. I just opened the door. Maybe. But opening the door mattered. Hannah paused. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret it? Marrying me that day? Brandon met her eyes. Not even a little bit. Best impulsive decision I've ever made. Hannah felt warmth spread through her chest. Not romantic feelings, not yet. Just gratitude and affection for this man who'd seen her at her lowest and offered her dignity instead of pity. That night, Hannah wrote in the journal Dr. Torres had suggested she keep. She wrote about the woman she used to be, the one who believed she deserved Trevor's rejection. Then she wrote about the woman she was becoming. Stronger, clearer, more herself. For the first time in her life, Hannah was finding her voice. And it felt like coming home. 3 months into her new life, Hannah was thriving. She'd taken on more responsibility at Cole Enterprises, managing relationships with 10 different community organizations. She'd lost a little weight through intuitive eating and regular walks, but more importantly, she felt healthier and stronger. She'd made real friends with Patricia and some of the other people in her support group. Then Trevor showed up. Hannah was at her desk, reviewing notes for an upcoming volunteer event, when Jennifer from reception called. "Hannah, there's someone here to see you. He says his name is Trevor Mitchell and that he's your fiancé." Hannah's stomach dropped. "He's not my fiancé. Send him away." "He's being pretty insistent." Hannah stood up, her heart pounding. Patricia looked over from her desk. "Everything okay?" "It's Trevor. He's here." Patricia's expression hardened. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No. I need to handle this myself." Hannah took the elevator down to the lobby. Trevor stood near the reception desk, wearing jeans and a jacket, looking out of place in the polished corporate environment. When he saw her, his face lit up with a smile that made Hannah feel sick. "Hannah, you look amazing." "What are you doing here, Trevor?" "I needed to see you. To apologize properly. What I did at the wedding, it was the biggest mistake of my life. I was scared and stupid, and I've regretted it every single day since." Hannah crossed her arms. "You humiliated me in front of everyone we know. You listed my flaws at the altar. And now you want to apologize. I know I hurt you. But baby, we can fix this. I heard about your new life here, about how you're working for some billionaire. That's great. Really great. But we belong together. We can make this work." The pieces clicked into place. "You heard I'm connected to money now, and suddenly you're interested again. It's not like that." "That's exactly what it's like." Hannah felt anger rising in her, clean and powerful. "You didn't want me when I was just Hannah from the grocery store. But now that you think I have access to wealth, you're here." "The answer is no, Trevor. I don't want you back. I don't want your apology. I want you to leave." Trevor's smile faded. "You're really going to throw away 3 years for some guy you barely know?" "I'm not throwing away anything. You did that when you walked away from me. Now I'm choosing to move forward without you. You'll regret this, Hannah. No one else is going to want you. I was your best shot." "No," Hannah said clearly. "I was your best shot. And you blew it. Goodbye, Trevor." She turned and walked back to the elevators. Her hands were shaking, but she'd done it. She'd stood up to him. She'd said no. When she got back to her desk, Patricia gave her a thumbs up. Hannah tried to focus on work, but her mind kept replaying the encounter. Trevor had shown his true colors. He hadn't come back because he loved her. He'd come back because he thought she was worth something now. That evening, Brandon was waiting when she got home. He looked concerned. "Leslie told me Trevor was at the building today. Are you okay?" Hannah sank onto the couch. "He wanted me back. Now that he thinks I have money, suddenly I'm worth his time again." Brandon sat across from her. "What did you tell him?" "I told him no. I told him to leave." "Good. But Hannah, he might not give up that easily. Some people can't stand to lose, especially when they think they're entitled to something." Brandon was right. The next day, Hannah's phone was full of messages from Trevor. Some were apologetic, others were angry, a few were threatening. Hannah blocked his number, but then he started emailing her work account. 2 days later, Patricia called Hannah into her office. "We have a situation. Trevor went to a local news blog and told them a story. He's claiming you used Brandon to escape your wedding and that you're taking advantage of a kind man's generosity. The blog published it this morning." Hannah felt her face go hot. "That's not true." "I know it's not true. Brandon knows it's not true. But it's out there now and we need to address it." Brandon's legal team contacted the blog immediately, demanding a retraction. But the damage was done. The story spread on social media. People who didn't know Hannah weighed in with opinions. Some supported her, but others believed Trevor's version. Hannah met with Brandon and his lawyer, a sharp woman named Catherine who wore a blue suit. We have options, Catherine explained. We can sue for defamation, but that will drag this out and keep it in the news. Or we can do a single interview where you tell your side of the story. Control the narrative. I don't want to relive that day publicly, Hannah said. I understand, Catherine said gently. But right now, Trevor's lies are the only version people are hearing. You have a chance to set the record straight on your own terms. Hannah looked at Brandon. What do you think? I think you're strong enough to do this. But it's your choice. Hannah thought about it. She'd spent her whole life letting other people define her story. Maybe it was time to define it herself. Okay. I'll do the interview. 3 days later, Hannah sat across from a journalist named Rebecca at a neutral location. Rebecca was professional and kind, starting with easy questions before getting to the harder ones. Tell me what really happened at your wedding, Rebecca said. Hannah took a deep breath and told the truth. All of it. The years of bullying, Trevor's cruelty at the altar, Brandon's unexpected offer, the agreement they'd made. She explained that Brandon had given her opportunities, not bought her. She talked about her work at Cole Enterprises, her therapy, her journey to finding herself. Trevor claims you're using Brandon for his money, Rebecca said. Trevor is angry because I said no to him. The truth is, Brandon offered me a chance to start over and I took it. I work hard at my job. I pay my own bills with my salary. Brandon is my friend and someone I respect deeply. What Trevor can't understand is that I don't need him anymore. I never really did. The interview aired 2 days later. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people commented and most of them supported Hannah. They called her brave. They shared their own stories of leaving toxic relationships. The narrative shifted completely. Trevor went silent after that. His lies had been exposed and he had no ammunition left. Hannah was standing at her window one evening, looking at the city lights, when Brandon joined her. You okay? He asked. I'm better than okay. I stood up to him. I told my truth. And people listened. I'm proud of you. Hannah turned to look at him. Thank you for believing in me. For helping me see I was worth fighting for. You've always been worth fighting for, Hannah. You just needed to see it yourself. As she stood there, Hannah realized something. The woman who'd stood at that altar 3 months ago didn't exist anymore. That woman had been broken by years of cruelty and low expectations. The woman standing here now was stronger, clearer, and ready for whatever came next. And that woman wasn't going to let anyone define her story ever again. 6 months after the wedding that changed everything, Hannah barely recognized her own life. She'd been promoted to senior coordinator at Cole Enterprises, managing 15 community partnerships. She'd made genuine friendships with Patricia and others at work. Her therapy sessions with Dr. Torres had helped her understand and heal from years of emotional damage. She was healthier, happier, and more confident than she'd ever been. But something else was changing too. Something she hadn't expected. Her feelings for Brandon were deepening beyond friendship. It started small. The way her heart would speed up when she heard his key in the door. The warmth that spread through her chest when he laughed at something she said. The way she found herself thinking about him at random moments during the day. Hannah tried to ignore it. Brandon had married her out of kindness, not attraction. He'd given her a job, a home, and support. Reading anything romantic into their arrangement would be foolish and potentially ruin everything good she'd built. Still, the feelings grew. They'd settled into a comfortable routine. Dinner together 3 times a week. Weekend trips to museums and parks. Long conversations about everything from philosophy to their favorite movies. Brandon was easy to talk to, funny in a quiet way, and thoughtful about everything he did. One Saturday afternoon, they went to an art gallery showing local artists. Hannah stood in front of a painting of a woman emerging from water, her expression triumphant. That's how you look now, Brandon said softly beside her. What do you mean? Like someone who survived something difficult and came out stronger. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. I had help surviving. You did the hard work yourself. I just opened some doors. They moved through the gallery together, discussing paintings and sculptures. Hannah noticed the way other women looked at Brandon, interested and appreciative. He was handsome, successful, and kind. Of course people were attracted to him. The thought made something uncomfortable twist in her stomach. Jealousy. She was jealous. That evening, back at the penthouse, Hannah's mother called. Gloria had visited twice since Hannah moved to the city, both times leaving impressed with her daughter's transformation. How are things going, baby? Gloria asked. Really good, Mom. Work is going well. I got another promotion. That's wonderful. And how are things with Brandon? Hannah hesitated. What do you mean? I mean, you two have been living together for 6 months now. Married. I'm just wondering if things are developing beyond your arrangement. Mom, it's not like that. Brandon is my friend. Hannah, I've seen the way that man looks at you. And I've heard the way you talk about him. Maybe it's time to consider that this could be something more. After they hung up, Hannah couldn't stop thinking about her mother's words. Did Brandon look at her a certain way? Had she been too afraid to notice? The next week, Patricia invited Hannah to lunch. They went to their usual cafe, ordering salads and iced tea. Can I ask you something personal? Patricia said after they'd talked about work for a while. Sure. How do you really feel about Brandon? Hannah almost choked on her tea. What? Come on, Hannah. I've watched you two together when he visits the office. The way you light up when he walks in. The way he finds excuses to stop by your desk. It's obvious to everyone except apparently you two. Brandon doesn't see me that way. He married me to help me, not because he was attracted to me. Are you sure about that? Because from where I'm sitting, that man cares about you as more than a friend. Even if that were true, I can't risk ruining what we have. He's given me everything. If I tell him how I feel and he doesn't feel the same way, it'll make everything awkward. I could lose my job, my home, everything. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed Hannah's hand. Or you could gain something beautiful. Love is always a risk, honey. But some risks are worth taking. That weekend, Gloria came to visit again. Brandon had gone to a business meeting, giving Hannah and her mother time alone. They sat on the penthouse balcony drinking coffee and watching the city below. I need to apologize to you properly, Gloria said. I've been thinking a lot about your childhood. About all the times people were cruel to you and I didn't protect you enough. I told myself I was being realistic, preparing you for a hard world. But really I was just too scared to fight back. I'm so sorry, Hannah. Hannah felt tears fall. I know you did your best, Mom. My best wasn't good enough. You deserved a mother who defended you fiercely. Who taught you that you were valuable exactly as you were. I let other people's cruelty shape how I saw you and that was wrong. Mom, I forgive you. I've learned in therapy that holding on to anger only hurts me. You made mistakes but you also loved me. That's what matters. Gloria hugged her daughter tightly. You've become such an amazing woman. Strong and kind and brave. I'm so proud of you. When Brandon came home that evening, he found Hannah and Gloria laughing over old photo albums in the living room. He joined them on the couch, asking questions about Hannah's childhood. Gloria told embarrassing stories that made Hannah blush and Brandon laugh. Later, after Gloria had gone to her hotel, Brandon and Hannah cleaned up the coffee cups and photo albums. Your mom is wonderful, Brandon said. I can see where you get your strength. She apologized today. For not protecting me more when I was young. How did that feel? Good. Healing. She's trying to make things right between us. Brandon was quiet for a moment. My mother never apologized for anything. After Rachel died, she blamed me for not being there. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Hannah touched his arm gently. I'm sorry. That must be so hard. It is. But it's also taught me the importance of the family we choose instead of the family we're born into. He looked at her as he said it, his eyes warm. Hannah felt her breath catch. For a moment she thought he might say something more. Instead he smiled and went to his room. Hannah lay in bed that night, Patricia's words echoing in her mind. Love is always a risk. But some risks are worth taking. Maybe it was time to be brave in a different way. Maybe it was time to risk her heart. But not yet. Not quite yet. She needed to be sure. And she needed to know if Brandon felt even a fraction of what she felt. Because losing him would hurt more than anything Trevor had ever done to her. The invitation arrived on heavy cream paper with elegant lettering. The annual Cole Foundation Charity Gala, benefiting community organizations throughout the city. Hannah held it in her hands, reading Brandon's handwritten note at the bottom. Would you be my date for this? You've earned a celebration. Her heart raced. A date. He called it a date. Patricia found her staring at the invitation during lunch. What's that? Brandon invited me to the foundation gala next month. The big one? The event everyone important in the city attends. Patricia grinned. That's huge. What are you wearing? I have no idea. I've never been to anything like this. Then we're going shopping. This weekend. No arguments. That Saturday, Patricia took Hannah to high-end boutiques Hannah would never have entered on her own. They tried on dress after dress until Hannah stepped out in a floor-length green gown that made her gasp when she saw her reflection. The dress hugged her curves perfectly, the color making her skin glow. The neckline was elegant without being revealing. She looked beautiful. Actually, genuinely beautiful. That's the one, Patricia said firmly. Brandon's going to lose his mind when he sees you. Hannah bought the dress, along with shoes and a small clutch purse. The total was more than she'd ever spent on an outfit, but she'd been saving her salary carefully. She could afford this. The night of the gala, Hannah spent an hour getting ready. She'd gone to a salon that afternoon for hair and makeup. Her hair was styled in soft curls, and her makeup was subtle but polished. She put on the green dress, her grandmother's silver necklace, and the simple heels. When she emerged from her room, Brandon was waiting in the living room wearing a black tuxedo. He looked up, and his expression stopped Hannah in her tracks. "Hannah," he said softly, "you look absolutely stunning." "Thank you. You look pretty good yourself." The car ride to the event was filled with nervous energy. Brandon told her about the people who would be there, important donors and community leaders. Hannah felt her anxiety rising. What if I say something wrong? I'm not used to these kinds of events. Brandon took her hand. "You're going to be wonderful. Just be yourself. The woman who connects with people and makes them feel valued. That's all you need to be." The gala was held in a historic hotel with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. Hannah had never seen anything so elegant. People in expensive clothes mingled, holding champagne glasses and talking in small groups. Brandon kept his hand on the small of her back as they moved through the crowd, introducing her to donors and colleagues. Everyone was polite and interested when they learned about her work in community outreach. An elderly woman in a blue dress approached them, her eyes sharp but kind. Brandon lit up when he saw her. "Ruth, I'm so glad you came. I wouldn't miss it." The woman turned to Hannah with interest. "And who is this lovely young woman?" "Ruth Holloway. This is Hannah Washington." "Hannah, Ruth is an old family friend." They shook hands. Ruth studied Hannah for a long moment, then smiled. "Walk with me, dear. I want to hear about your work." They left Brandon talking with a group of business people and found a quiet corner. Ruth settled into a chair and gestured for Hannah to sit beside her. "So, you work for Brandon's company?" "I do. I coordinate community partnerships. It's fulfilling work." "And how long have you known Brandon?" Hannah hesitated. "About 8 months." Ruth's smile widened. "I've known that boy since he was 12. His father and my late husband were business partners. I watched Brandon build his company from nothing after his parents essentially disowned him following Rachel's death. He's a good man, but he's been alone too long. He's been very kind to me." "Kind?" Ruth chuckled. "My dear, that man looks at you like you hung the moon. Does he know how you feel about him?" Hannah's face went hot. "I don't know what you mean." "Of course you do. It's written all over your face. You love him." Ruth patted her hand. "Take it from an old woman who's been married twice. Life's too short to pretend we don't feel what we feel. If you love him, tell him. The worst thing that can happen is he doesn't feel the same. But I don't think that's very likely." Before Hannah could respond, a woman's voice cut through the gentle hum of conversation. Well, Brandon brought a date. How unexpected." Hannah turned to see a tall woman in a red dress standing behind them. She was beautiful in a sharp-edged way with perfect hair and cold eyes. "Candace," Ruth said, her tone cooling. "How nice to see you." "Ruth." Candace turned her attention to Hannah. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Candace Preston. My family has been friends with the Coles for generations." "Hannah Washington. I work for Brandon's company." "Oh, you work for him. How nice." Candace's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I was so surprised to see Brandon here with a date. Usually he comes alone. I suppose it's charitable of him to bring along employees." Hannah felt the insult like a slap, but before she could respond, Brandon appeared at her side. "Candace, I see you've met my wife." Candace's smile froze. "You're what?" "My wife. Hannah and I have been married for 8 months." Brandon's arm slid around Hannah's waist, protective and possessive. "And she's not just an employee. She's one of the most talented people in our organization. Her community programs have increased our impact by 40% this year." "I had no idea you'd gotten married," Candace said, her voice tight. "We kept it private. Now if you'll excuse us, I promised Hannah a dance." Brandon led Hannah to the dance floor as a string quartet played. He took her in his arms, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. "I'm sorry about Candace," he said as they swayed to the music. "She's been trying to get me to date her for years. She doesn't handle rejection well." "You defended me." "Of course I did. What she said was cruel and wrong." Brandon's expression was serious. "Hannah, you're not just someone I helped. You're not a charity case or an employee I'm being kind to. You're important to me. Really important. I hope you know that. Hannah looked up at him, her heart pounding. In the soft light of the chandeliers, with music playing around them and his arms holding her close, she felt something shift. This wasn't just friendship. This wasn't just gratitude. This was something real. Brandon, she started to say, but the music ended and another couple bumped into them, breaking the moment. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Hannah met more people, heard speeches about the foundation's work, and watched Brandon command the room with quiet confidence. But all she could think about was the way he'd called her his wife, the way he'd defended her, the way he'd looked at her while they danced. On the drive home they were both quiet. The city lights flashed past the window. Hannah's mind raced with everything Ruth had said, everything she'd felt on that dance floor. "Thank you for tonight," Hannah said as they rode the elevator up to the penthouse. "It was magical. Thank you for coming with me. You made the whole evening better." They stood in the elevator, close but not touching. Hannah gathered her courage. This was it. The moment she'd been waiting for. "Brandon, I need to tell you something." The elevator doors opened. Brandon looked at her, his expression open and hopeful. "What is it?" But Hannah's courage faltered. "Not here. Not in an elevator after a long night. She needed to do this right. Just, thank you. For everything." She saw something flicker in his eyes, disappointment maybe. But he smiled and nodded. "Anytime, Hannah. Anytime." That night, lying in bed, Hannah made a decision. Tomorrow. Tomorrow she would tell him how she felt. She would be brave one more time. Because Ruth was right. Life was too short to pretend. And Hannah was done pretending she didn't love Brandon Cole with her whole heart. Hannah barely slept. She spent the night rehearsing what she would say, how she would tell Brandon she'd fallen in love with him. By morning, her nerves were wound so tight she could barely breathe. She got dressed carefully, choosing a blue dress she knew he liked. She practiced her words in the mirror. "Brandon, I need to tell you something. These past 8 months I've developed feelings for you. Real feelings. I understand if you don't feel the same way, but I needed to be honest. Simple. Direct. Honest." She found Brandon in the kitchen making breakfast. Sunday morning pancakes had become their tradition. He looked up and smiled when she entered. "Good morning. Coffee's ready." "Thanks." Hannah poured herself a cup with shaking hands. This was it. She just needed to say the words. "Brandon, can we talk?" He turned from the stove, his expression suddenly serious. "Actually, I was hoping we could talk too. I have something I need to tell you." "You do?" "Yeah." He turned off the stove and came to sit at the kitchen island across from her. "Hannah, these past 8 months have been incredible. Watching you grow, seeing you become confident and strong, it's been amazing. But something's changed for me. Something I didn't expect." Hannah's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Brandon took a deep breath. "When I married you that day, it was about helping someone in a terrible situation. I didn't expect anything beyond giving you a fresh start. But over these months, getting to know you, spending time with you, I've realized something." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "I've fallen in love with you, Hannah. Really, truly in love. Not because I feel sorry for you or because of our arrangement, but because you're smart and kind and brave and funny. Because talking to you is the best part of my day. Because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." Hannah felt tears spring to her eyes. "You love me?" "I love you. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you without making you feel pressured or uncomfortable. I know our situation is complicated. I know you might not feel the same way, and if you don't, that's okay. We can keep things exactly as they are. But I needed to be honest with you. You deserve honesty." Hannah started to laugh through her tears. "You just stole my speech." "What?" "I was going to tell you the same thing. That I've fallen in love with you too. That these past months, you've become the most important person in my life. That I can't stop thinking about you." She wiped her eyes. "I've been terrified to tell you because I thought you'd think I was just grateful or confused." Brandon stood up and came around the island. He took her hands in his. "You love me?" "I love you. So much it scares me sometimes." He pulled her close, holding her tightly. Hannah buried her face in his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. This was real. This was happening. Brandon pulled back just enough to look at her face. "Can I kiss you? A real kiss this time?" Hannah nodded and he leaned in. Their first real kiss was gentle and perfect, full of months of restrained feelings finally allowed to surface. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "I've wanted to do that for so long," Brandon admitted. "Why didn't you?" "Because I didn't want you to think I expected it. I wanted you to heal and grow and find yourself without any pressure from me. I wanted you to be sure." "I'm sure," Hannah said. I've been sure for months. I was just too scared to say anything. They spent the rest of the morning talking, finally being completely honest about the feelings they'd been hiding. Brandon admitted he'd been attracted to her from that first day at the church, something about her dignity in the face of cruelty. Hannah confessed that she'd started having feelings around month 3 but had convinced herself it was just gratitude. So where do we go from here? Hannah asked as they sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder. Wherever you want. We can take this slow, let our relationship develop naturally. No pressure, no expectations. Just us figuring out what this looks like. I'd like that. Slow sounds good. But slow lasted about a week. Once they'd admitted their feelings, everything felt different in the best possible way. They held hands. They kissed. They went on actual dates where the romantic tension was acknowledged and celebrated. Hannah told Patricia, who screamed with joy and demanded all the details. She told her mother, who cried happy tears and said she'd known all along. She told Dr. Torres, who smiled and said this was a healthy, mutual relationship built on respect and honesty. Brandon told Leslie, who just said, finally, about time you two figured it out. Ruth sent a card that said, told you so. Congratulations. 2 weeks after their mutual confession, Brandon took Hannah to the same art gallery where they'd been months before. They stood in front of the painting of the woman emerging from water. Do you remember what I said about this painting? Brandon asked. That it looked like me. Like someone who survived something difficult. I was already in love with you then. I just didn't know how to tell you. He turned to face her. Hannah, I know we've only been together romantically for a short time, but I've known you for almost 9 months. I know who you are. I know what matters to you. And I know I want to build a life with you. A real life, not just an arrangement. I want that too. Good. He kissed her softly. Because I'm not letting you go. You're stuck with me. Hannah laughed. I think I can live with that. That night, they lay on the couch together, watching the city lights through the windows. Hannah felt happier than she'd ever imagined possible. 9 months ago, she'd been standing at an altar, humiliated and broken. Now she was lying in the arms of a man who loved her, working a job she was good at, living a life that felt real and meaningful. What are you thinking about? Brandon asked, playing with her hair. About how different everything is. How if Trevor hadn't rejected me, I never would have found you. Do you regret anything? Hannah thought about it honestly. No. As terrible as that day was, it led me here. It led me to you in this life and the person I've become. I'm grateful for all of it, even the hard parts. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm learning to believe it. They fell asleep there on the couch, tangled together, both feeling like they'd finally found home. Over the next few weeks, their relationship deepened naturally. They talked about everything, their hopes, their fears, their dreams for the future. Brandon admitted he wanted children someday. Hannah said she'd never let herself imagine that future before, but with him, she could see it. One evening, about a month into their romantic relationship, Brandon came home with a small box. What's this? Hannah asked. Open it. Inside was a beautiful ring with a green stone surrounded by small diamonds. Hannah gasped. It's not an engagement ring, Brandon clarified quickly. I know we're not ready for that yet. But I wanted to give you something to replace that plain gold band from our wedding. Something that represents who we are now, not who we were then. Hannah slipped it on her finger. It fit perfectly. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Inside and out. And I want you to know that every day. Hannah kissed him, pouring all her love and gratitude into it. She'd found something she'd stopped believing existed. Real, genuine love based on respect and choice and equality. They'd both been broken in different ways. But together they'd found healing. And that was worth everything. 10 months after that chaotic wedding day, Hannah's life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Work was thriving. Her relationship with Brandon was strong and growing deeper every day. She'd reconnected with her mother in a real way. She had genuine friends. Everything felt stable and good. Then the crisis hit. It started on a Tuesday morning. Hannah was at her desk, coordinating a large volunteer event, when Brandon called her cell phone. His voice was tight. Can you come up to my office? Now. Hannah's stomach dropped. Brandon never sounded like that. She took the elevator to the top floor and found his office full of people. Leslie was there, along with several men in suits Hannah recognized as Brandon's lawyers and business partners. What's going on? Hannah asked. Brandon gestured her into his private conference room. They sat down and he took her hand. There's a situation. A competitor has filed fraud charges against Cole Enterprises. They're claiming we've been misusing charitable donations and lying about our community impact numbers. Hannah's eyes went wide. That's crazy. I manage those programs. Every penny is accounted for. The impact numbers are real. I know. But they've convinced some investigators to look into it. It's going to be a messy process. Media attention, audits, the whole thing. I wanted to tell you right away because this might affect you too. How? They're claiming I created fake positions to funnel money. Your job might come under scrutiny. Brandon's face was pained. Hannah, I need you to know that none of this is your fault. And if this somehow destroys my company, I want to make sure you're protected. I've set up a separate account in your name, enough money to get you started somewhere new if you need it. What? No. Brandon, I'm not leaving. You might have to. If this goes badly, everything could fall apart. The company, my reputation, everything. I don't want you dragged down with me. Hannah squeezed his hand tightly. I'm not going anywhere. We'll fight this together. Over the next few days, the situation got worse. News outlets picked up the story. Investigators arrived at the office requesting documents and interviews. Some of Brandon's business partners started distancing themselves, worried about their own reputations. Brandon was stressed in a way Hannah had never seen. He barely slept, spending hours with lawyers and accountants, gathering evidence to prove the accusations were false. Hannah watched him struggle and felt helpless. Then she realized she wasn't helpless at all. Hannah called an emergency meeting with Patricia and the entire community outreach team. The company is being accused of fraud in our department. We need to gather every piece of documentation we have. Every receipt, every report, every testimonial from the organizations we work with. We're going to prove our impact is real. They worked around the clock. Hannah contacted every community partner, explaining the situation and asking for written statements about their work together. The responses were overwhelming. Organization after organization sent detailed letters praising Cole Enterprises, providing data about the real impact of their partnerships. Patricia helped compile everything into a comprehensive report. This is solid, Hannah. No one can look at this evidence and claim fraud. Hannah delivered the report to Brandon's legal team. Catherine, the lawyer, looked impressed. This is excellent work. Very thorough. This will help significantly. But the investigation dragged on for weeks. The stress was immense. Brandon lost weight. He was quiet and withdrawn, worried about everyone who depended on his company. One night, he sat on the couch with his head in his hands. I built this company to honor Rachel. To do something good in the world. If this destroys that, I don't know what I'll do. Hannah sat beside him and pulled him close. You didn't do anything wrong. The truth will come out. And even if the worst happens, we'll rebuild. Together. You have too much faith in me. I have exactly the right amount of faith in you. You're the man who saw someone in trouble and helped without expecting anything in return. You're the man who builds businesses that actually do good. You're the man I love. That doesn't change because of some competitor's lies. Brandon held her tightly. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And I'm not going anywhere. Leslie organized a show of support. Employees wore blue, the company color, on a designated day. They posted messages on social media about the real impact of Cole Enterprises. Community partners held a press conference, talking about the genuine help they'd received. Hannah stood at that press conference with representatives from food banks, youth programs, and housing initiatives. One by one, they told their stories of working with Cole Enterprises. This company changed our ability to serve our community, said the director of a food bank. They didn't just give money. They sent people to help. They built relationships. Nothing about that is fraudulent. The tide began to turn. Journalists started asking harder questions of the competitor who'd made the accusations. They discovered that company had lost a major contract to Cole Enterprises 6 months earlier. The fraud charges started to look like revenge rather than truth. After 6 grueling weeks, the investigation concluded. Cole Enterprises was cleared completely. The accusations were proven to be baseless. Brandon's competitor faced legal consequences for filing false charges. The day the news broke, the entire office celebrated. Brandon stood in the middle of the community outreach department, thanking everyone personally for their support. When he got to Hannah, he pulled her into his arms, not caring who saw. You saved me. You and this team. When everything felt like it was falling apart, you kept fighting. That's what you do when you love someone. You stand beside them when things get hard. That evening, back at the penthouse, Brandon was quieter than usual. They sat on the balcony watching the sunset over the city. I learned something these past weeks, Brandon said. I learned that the woman I married at that altar isn't who I thought she was. Hannah's heart stuttered. What do you mean? I thought I was saving you that day. Rescuing someone who needed help. But you didn't need saving. You needed opportunities. And you've proven over and over that given the chance, you're stronger than anyone I know. You saved me this time, Hannah. You and your incredible work and your loyalty. You're not someone I rescued. You're my equal partner. Hannah felt tears stream down her face. I couldn't have become this person without you. Maybe. But you did the work. You chose to heal. You chose to grow. You chose to be brave. That was all you. He turned to face her fully. I fell in love with a woman at an altar. But I'm in love with someone even more amazing now. Someone who knows her own worth and fights for what matters. I love you too. So much. They sat together as the sun set, both understanding that they'd weathered their first real crisis as a couple. Not everything would be easy. Life would bring more challenges. But they knew now that they could face those challenges together. And that made all the difference. 1 year after the wedding that started everything, Hannah woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows and Brandon's arm around her waist. They'd moved into the master bedroom together 3 months ago, both agreeing they were ready for that step. She rolled over to find him already awake, watching her with soft eyes. Good morning, he said, kissing her forehead. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you too. 1 year ago, you did the craziest thing anyone's ever done for me. Best decision I ever made. Brandon pulled her closer. I have something to ask you. Hannah's heart sped up. Okay. We've been legally married for a year, but it's been a strange, backwards kind of marriage. We fell in love after the wedding instead of before. I want to do this right. I want to marry you again, Hannah. A real wedding with people we love, where we choose each other completely. Will you marry me? Again? Hannah laughed and cried at the same time. Yes. Absolutely yes. They spent the next month planning a small ceremony. This time there was no stress or pressure. Just joy and anticipation. They invited 40 people. Gloria, Patricia, Leslie, Ruth, Dr. Torres, and others who had become family over the past year. The ceremony was held in a beautiful garden on a bright Saturday afternoon. Everything was decorated in blue and green, Hannah's favorite colors. There were flowers everywhere, and soft music played from speakers hidden in the trees. Hannah wore a stunning blue dress, simpler than the red one from a year ago but infinitely more meaningful. Brandon wore a gray suit with a blue tie. When Hannah walked down the garden path, his face lit up with pure love. They'd written their own vows. Brandon went first, his voice steady and clear. Hannah, 1 year ago I made a promise to you without really knowing you. Today I make this promise knowing exactly who you are. You're brave and kind and stronger than you give yourself credit for. You've taught me that real love isn't about rescue or salvation. It's about two people choosing each other every single day. I choose you today. I'll choose you tomorrow. I'll choose you every day for the rest of our lives. Hannah's hands shook as she read her own vows. Brandon, you saw me on the worst day of my life and offered me dignity when I had none left. But more than that, you gave me space to find myself. You supported me without controlling me. You loved me without trying to change me. You showed me what real partnership looks like. A year ago I said yes because I was desperate. Today I say yes because I'm certain. You're my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. When the officiant pronounced them married, the whole garden erupted in applause. Brandon kissed Hannah deeply, both of them smiling through tears. The reception was casual and joyful. They ate good food, danced under string lights, and celebrated with everyone who mattered. Gloria gave a toast that made everyone cry. I watched my daughter struggle for so many years, believing she wasn't worthy of love. Today, I'm watching her shine with happiness because she found someone who sees her true value. Brandon, thank you for loving my daughter the way she always deserved to be loved. Patricia's toast was funny and touching. I've worked with Hannah for almost a year now, and I've watched her transform from someone unsure of her abilities to someone who confidently leads programs that change lives. And I've watched Brandon look at her like she's the most amazing person in the world. Because she is. As the sun began to set, Hannah and Brandon slipped away from the party for a moment, walking to a quiet corner of the garden. Are you happy? Brandon asked. Happier than I ever imagined I could be. Hannah leaned against him. A year ago I thought my life was over. I thought that moment at the altar defined me. But it didn't. It was just the beginning. Do you ever think about Trevor? About what he's doing now? Sometimes. But not with anger anymore. He actually did me a favor by walking away. If he hadn't, I never would have found you. I never would have discovered who I could become. I heard he's still in your hometown, still working at that grocery store. Good for him. I hope he finds happiness eventually. But his life isn't my concern anymore. Mine is. They stood together as the sky turned pink and gold, watching their friends and family celebrate. Hannah thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain, the humiliation, the fear. But also the healing, the growth, the love. What do you think happens next? Hannah asked. Whatever we want. We could travel, start a family, build the community programs even bigger. The future is wide open. I think I'd like to write a book. About second chances and finding yourself. Maybe it would help other people who feel the way I used to feel. That's a beautiful idea. I'll support you however I can. I know you will. That's what you do. Hannah turned to face him fully. Brandon Cole, you changed my life. But more than that, you helped me change my own life. You gave me the tools and the space and the support to become who I was always meant to be. That's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. You did the same for me. Before you, I was just working, building, succeeding at business but failing at life. You taught me how to be present. How to love without fear. How to build something real. He kissed her softly. We saved each other, Hannah. That's what partners do. They returned to the party hand in hand. Hannah danced with her mother, laughing and spinning under the lights. Brandon talked with Ruth, the elderly woman who'd predicted all of this a year ago. Leslie took dozens of photos, capturing every moment. As the evening ended and guests began to leave, Hannah and Brandon stood at the garden entrance, thanking everyone for coming. Patricia hugged Hannah tightly. You deserve all of this happiness, she whispered. Every bit of it. Thank you for being my friend. For believing in me. Always. Finally, it was just Hannah and Brandon and the stars overhead. They walked through the garden one more time, not wanting the night to end. Do you remember what you said to me in that church? Hannah asked. When you offered to marry me? I said you deserved better than what happened. That I could give you a chance at a different life. You were right. But not in the way you thought. Hannah stopped walking and turned to face him. You didn't give me a different life. You gave me the courage to build my own life. That's what made all the difference. Brandon pulled her close. I love you, Hannah Washington Cole. I love you too. They kissed under the stars, both knowing they'd found something rare and precious. Not a fairy tale rescue but something better. A real partnership built on respect, honesty, and the kind of love that grows stronger with time. Hannah had stood at an altar a year ago, broken and humiliated, thinking her story was over. She'd been wrong. That day wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. And the story that followed was more beautiful than anything she could have imagined. As they drove home through the city that had become theirs, Hannah looked at the ring on her finger. It sparkled in the streetlights, a symbol of promises kept and love freely given. She thought about the woman she'd been and the woman she'd become. She'd learned that worth isn't measured by other people's opinions. That love isn't about desperation or settling. That sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That second chances are real if you're brave enough to take them. Brandon reached over and squeezed her hand. Hannah squeezed back, both of them smiling. They'd found each other in the most unexpected way. They'd built something real from chaos and pain. And now they had a lifetime ahead of them to keep building, keep growing, keep choosing each other. Hannah Washington had been told her whole life that she wasn't enough. Today she knew the truth. She was more than enough. She always had been. She just needed to believe it herself. And she finally did.